Hi, welcome to Paleo Greenbird. I'm Greenbird, and today is going to be another flint knapping video. I just got a nice shipment of Georgetown flint from James Aboud. James, I hope I'm saying your name right. This is the second spall that I've worked. I really wish I would have recorded the first spall. I kind of knocked into it a little bit just to see how it performed and what its characteristics were like. And I got him down to a pretty decent biface, and then I snapped it, which is actually why I wish I would have had it on tape, because you can see I think what I did was I just had some bad support, or maybe I supported it in the wrong space, the wrong place. This works, this to me, just being the second spall, seems to work a lot like a dacite or an obsidian, where I had some short terminations because I think I had it too tight on my pad. So I think this works well either with a loose grip, or even I might even just try freehand napping once I get down to that point and see what happens. So as you can see, I've got a nice flat spall. Most of the Georgetown comes pretty flat. It's just the way it is. It's a thin, at least to what I've seen, it seems to be a pretty thin nodule. So I'm going to try and skin the cortex off of the top of this and see what I can come up with. So I think what I'm going to do, since this is so sharp, is I'm just going to try and do a little bit of a zigzag. I might use this edge that's close to this bulb of percussion. If you don't know what a bulb of percussion is, basically, if you've ever, when you hit the spall, it pops it off, creates that flake, creates that convexity in there. You'll see, actually it's not convexity, it's the opposite, but you'll see that for every dip that there is, there's got to be obviously another side that has the opposite, the convexity to it, and that's what this is. Okay, so this is obviously where it was taken off of a larger piece, popped off, and this is that bulb of percussion that you get. So I'm going to try and zigzag close to that, just because I'm going to want to try and take that off. Skin that down a little bit. Oh, that was pretty crumbly. That wasn't that great. Ew, that wasn't that great at all. So I'm very tempted to try and clean that up, but what I've learned is that when you get a nasty hit or a nasty edge, just avoid it. Come back to it later. It's just like any other problem in life. The more you focus on it, the worse it gets. Just come back when you have a clear head or clear perspective. So I'm going to try and hit next to it again. A little bit better. You see, I took a little flake off. I need to do better than that, though, if I expect to skin this. And I did give myself a little tiny platform right here, so I might try and see if I can attack that area a little bit. Stuff is really dusty. It seems to like to be ground quite a bit. So I think instead of leaning this down like I normally do, I'm gonna leave this pretty up, and I'm just gonna try and come in this direction. Yeah, that worked a little better. I'm just going to keep working those little tiny platforms on the edge here, just until I can get to that, get that little flat spot off. That was a great hit. So we'll look over to the other side here. I'm just going to switch sides so we get a great strike. Sounded a little better. Alright, so starting to flatten that out a little bit. You can see before long I'll have a decent platform. And there we go. If I grind that off, that's not a bad platform. I should be able to take that whole ridge off. Again, this is only the second time I've worked this stone. No excuses, I'm just telling you. I love this stone though. It seems really soft. It seems, to me, it reacts a lot like dacite does, or dacite, or however you say it. I like glassy stones, but I also like the harder stone because it's just not as messy. I don't feel like it's going to track into my house and stick in everyone's foot. This seems to be kind of in between. It's kind of glassy. A little bit easier to work than a novaculite, but not nearly as glassy as like an obsidian. Does seem to like a lot of grinding though. And again, this is only a second piece, so I guess I shouldn't really act like I know what it likes. Alright, let's try that. I'm going to try and take that bulb of percussion off right there, that whole ridge. Let's see what happens. It's kind of a sharp platform. I'm going to flatten it just a little bit. Alright. Stuff is very dusty. Don't nap this inside at all. Alright, that didn't sound too bad. Alright, so I took a flake off, but I still have that bulb there. But luckily, I didn't destroy the platform, so I still have the platform too. It wasn't a terrible hit, it just wasn't exactly where I needed it to be. That's okay though, I'm a huge fan of a continuous platform. So let's work. That sounds a little bit better. Okay, so we're getting there. Took some of the bulb off. Let's get a little flatter. I don't know, I kind of like this stuff. It's a little intimidating at first because it comes so thin that you wonder, are you going to be able to take that cortex off? And I guess I don't know because I haven't tried to take it off yet, but I think it'll be fine. I think what I'm going to try and do here is isolate a little bit, since it's such a delicate stone. I'm not super concerned with isolating, but just a little bit. Even if you just give it a couple grinds on either side, oftentimes that'll isolate it just enough. Yep. There we go. Got myself a nice flake, set up another pattern, or another platform. So I had that bulb almost gone, but I'm starting to get a little concerned about the cortex on the other side. So I'm going to take one more strike right there on that platform, try and get the rest of that bulb off. Hopefully you can see that. I have terrible glare, so I can't see anything that's happening on the screen. But hopefully we'll take that bulb off, and then let's start working on that cortex, see what we can do about that. Some of the stuff that is so thin that I think that maybe it needs to be pressure flaked. Sized up with percussion and then pressure flake to get rid of that cortex. But I have to say, I really like this stuff. It's a really user-friendly material. Other than being super thin and having pretty much guaranteed to have cortex on one side. Other than that, I like it a lot. Oh yeah, there we go. So you can see, oh, I dropped it in the bucket. But you can see the nice flake we took there. There's the flake I took off. So that bulb is starting to disappear. And I have another platform there, and it's still a little thick there. I think I'm going to take one more, at least. I know my flint knapping videos aren't the most exciting. I hope if you're a beginner you're getting something out of it. I like to post these anyway because I'm somewhat of a beginner myself. I feel like, when you see the experts make these videos and they make these sweet 7-inch points or 8-inch points out of these stones, and then you start smacking rock and everything breaks up. You're like, I can't do this. So I'm hoping that as a beginner, you know, somewhat beginner, maybe more towards intermediate, showing, you know, what I'm doing, that helps you out there. I'm gonna come in, try and get that nice flake. Yeah, that was crappy. All right. Okay, let's try that again. I'm gonna set up a platform right here. I gotta fix that before I move on. Sometimes when I'm trying to show how to do it, you get so caught up in showing how to do it that you lose the fact that you just have to smack the rock. It's not rocket science. No pun intended. The more stone you break, the more gravel you make, the better you're gonna get. That's for sure. All right. So take this last shot here. I missed the platform. There we go. That's better. All right. So this, as you can see, this is starting to flatten out pretty good. That bulb of percussion is gone. So now I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to address the cortex. And the only way to really do that effectively, I think, is going to be to zigzag this and just shoot some long flakes and hope for the best and hope I don't get stuck with any islands out here. And if I do, maybe I can try and pressure flake them off, or maybe I can just reduce the stone. We'll see. So I'm going to do a quick little zigzag. Starting with this side over here. Zigzag is just like a sound. Just flip the rock upside down every time you hit. Alright, I'm gonna grind this. I'm not doing that great of a job. But I'm sure this is what our ancestors felt like the first time they found a new stone. They've never worked. You use whatever you know, and you try to adapt. Okay. Sometimes I'll knock a little bit with my grinder too. You just want to get off all the weak stuff. That weak stuff, when you hit it, you'll get crushed edges all day long. Just knock it off. Start with some good solid stone. Oh. So. Just realized I don't have my safety glasses on. Huh. Alright. Stuff is real dusty. Okay, so I'm going to start working on that zigzag. I'm going to start where the cortex is, just because that's what I want to take off the most. That's real light, so I'm going to... There we go. Some beautiful stone, though. Look at that banding in there. Look at that color. Beautiful. I hope some of that comes through at the end. It seems like it's mostly on the edge where the cortex is, but I'm hoping I get lucky. So you see how I'm just flipping this upside down, smacking it, and zigzagging it, trying to make those platforms. When it's thicker, I get a little more aggressive. I still think this is going to be a little challenging, but we'll see. because this is kind of a soft stone after I zigzag, I'm going to give it a really good grind. Anything that I think wants to come off, just let it come off, give it an excuse. I want nice, solid, strong platforms because I need to drive long flakes. I can't afford to have short terminations or anything like that. I need nice, long flakes that's going to take off that cortex. This is a thin stone. If I don't take off that cortex, I only have so many chances. And I'm hoping that once I take a couple strikes, even though I've zigzagged, I'm hoping that those strikes will create some new platforms for me, because I can already see where some of them are a little on the shallow side. But I'm going to go for it anyway. Boy, this is dusty stuff. What beautiful stone, though. Alright, so let's find a platform. I'm going to take this one right here in the back. I think I said it in some of my other videos too, but it's good to kind of keep your stone thicker in the middle than on the ends. Reduces shock. Oh yeah, there we go. So that was a pretty decent flake. So this is the platform that I hit right here. You can't see it, the platform's gone, but and then this flake came off. So I'll take that. That reduced it nicely. Took off that cortex. Now I'm going to try and take this platform here, but I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but it needs a little bit of work. I'm just going to grind it down a little bit, isolate it a little bit, try and get it to go in that direction. So the first thing I'm going to do is grind it. Grinding is your go-to. Always grind, 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 grind. If you think you've ground enough, just grind it a little bit more. And now I'm going to kind of grind with the edge of my grinder, with the angled part. Just create a little bit of a groove just to give myself some isolation. You can pressure flake it if you want. There's a lot of different ways to do it. I'm a little bit lazy on that regard, so and I sometimes pay for it. Take that flake. Oh yeah, that was a nice sound. So you can see my platform was right here, and as a result, that's the flake I took. And I still see that nice wavy texture on the inside. This is just beautiful stone. This is really beautiful. I wish I would have got more of this earlier. And as you can see, it did a pretty good job taking out as much of the cortex as I possibly can. I'll clean up here a little bit, but my biggest concern is leaving islands here in the middle. So I do have a platform right here that I could take, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take this platform right here, and that will take a huge flake, and maybe I'll get lucky and take it all, but if I don't, this flake down here, that will clean up the rest. I hope you can see that. Yeah, this is beautiful stone. Nice and easy to work. Well, I mean relatively. Shouldn't jinx myself. Got a nice color to it. Alright, so let's see if we can get lucky here. Oh, it's still a little bit weak. Always strengthen your platforms. Don't get, don't just try and take a weak platform. If you see it, just stop and fix it. It's so much better than having to fix all the hinges and steps and everything else you get from a crappy platform. The best, but the flake isn't as big as I wanted it to be. It's kind of, in my opinion, a short termination. I didn't get a step out of there other than what the Cortex is, but I do have not only this platform that we talked about, but now I do have another one right there. So I think I may drive a flake off of, yeah, but you see this platform here, the angle is going to go in that direction, which is great, and I do need to reduce that, but I need to hit this platform here because that's what's going to go in this direction and take off that Cortex. So that's what I'm going to do first. And when you're doing this, you also want to keep in mind, the thickness of your rock. If you're getting really super thin in the middle of it, and your ends are thick, you have to stop what you're doing and just reduce those ends, because otherwise you'll get that shock. The granite stone just took off a little flake. So, and I am kind of in that situation as I say that. But I think I'm okay. I think I can do this. Yeah, I'm actually going to switch it up. I'm going to take that other platform. Just for the sake of... No, I'm going to stick with my initial thoughts. I'm going to trust my own thoughts. I'm going to go with that platform to take off that Cortex. And I'm really glad I did. So, you can see that's the platform that I hit. Okay, that platform right there. And this is the flake that I got off of it. Cleaned up all that Cortex that I was worried about. I don't know where that shadow is coming from, but it's bugging me. So now I'm going to hit this platform right here, I think, and see it take off a little bit of Cortex, but it'll also just keep the flake pattern of the stone. And I don't like to edit my videos. I like you to see the failures and the successes, but I do understand that some of these videos get pretty long, so if you do see any editing, I assure you it's for the sake of time. If I make any mistakes or I have any errors, I promise you I'll show them. So I'm going to support. I'm going to support, but I'm going to support lightly because this is pretty fragile stone. Just enough to keep the rock in the same place. And I got a nice long flake. Now I'm running out of platforms, so I'm going to have to set myself up some platforms. So I'm going to go back to that whole zigzag method. And I've got one almost started there. It's super high, so I need to bring it down a little bit. So I'm going to start with that one. And just take a second and think, okay, so if it's high, how do I get it low? I got to hit it this way. Can't tell you how many times I've made that mistake and I've hit it on the wrong side of the zigzag, and instead of giving myself a platform, I just made myself a big hassle. Same thing right here. Alright, so I've made myself a nice little platform right there. I'm going to take it. I'm going to grind it really well. Anything that wants to come off, just let it come off. It's just going to be a hassle in the long run. And then once I get that platform nice, I'm going to try to isolate it just a little bit with my grinder. Not going crazy. Not going to break out the pressure flake or anything, just kind of isolate it with some grinding. Let's take it, see what happens. Again, I always like to reset and say, okay, with my support, don't cram it against my pad because you'll get an early termination. You don't want to hold it too loose, you'll snap it in half. You just gotta kind of give it some love. That was good. The flake fell apart, so I won't show it, but you can see we're starting to take off some of that cortex, and look at how beautiful that rock is. It's just gorgeous. See there? I just did it. And I paid for it. I got a nice little step fracture there, and it's because I was trying to build my platform in the wrong direction. But that's okay. We're so thick at this point that I'll be able to get that out. My phone was ringing. My business phone was ringing. It distracted me. Alright, so here we go. This is the platform I just made right here. Get you out of that shadow. That's what we're going to take. And hopefully it's going to drive that cortex right here, right off. We're almost pretty done after that, as far as taking off the cortex. I'm pretty happy because this was, as you can see in the beginning, it was a pretty small, not small, but thin spall, so I was concerned that it was going to be difficult for me at my skill level to skin off all of that cortex, but you know, so far so good. This is some great stone. This was cheap too. I mean, I don't want to quote a price because I don't know if I got a good price or if I got the standard price, but you know, contact James. He'll give you a quote on what he charges for a large flat rate box. Georgia. I'm sorry, for Georgetown Flint. If you get the same price I did, you'll be happy. So this is towards the end a little bit, and it is getting, it's not thin, but it's thin enough to where I can snap it, so I'm going to try and give it a little bit of support. I'm not going to put it directly on the pad because I'll get a short termination, but I am going to support it a little bit with my fingers. I'll just hit in, just hold it tightly enough to support it, but don't hold it so tight that you're afraid it's going to run away. There we go. So we flatten out this piece of Georgetown. I have but one piece of little tiny piece of cortex right here, and I guess let's go ahead and take it out, just for the sake of thoroughness. And this is by no means, you know, a preform or anything like that, but at least you've got a nice biface. You've got skin on both sides. It's thin enough to where now you can start using, you know, a hammerstone or a smaller billet. Start really thinning it out. Try and drive those flakes all the way to the center line. I struggle with that. Sometimes when I get to this point, I'll drop down in billets, and what happens is I get a nice, I don't know what the word for it is, but it gets thin on the edges, but then it gets thicker as it comes up, which is great. It's not a big deal. It's more like a beveled type of point, but you know, as you start to skin that down and thin it out, you know, what you're left with is just a nice thick point at the end. You lose those edges, so if you can drive those flakes as far as you can, that's really where it's at. I need to fix that platform. Oh, there we go. Perfect. So you can see that's a nice deep platform. A little bit deeper than I needed, but I'll take it. Again, the stone is so small, I mean, thick at this point that I'm not too worried about stuff like that. I mean, technically I did lose a little bit of stone there, but I'm not looking to make a nice 9-inch spear point. little thick. Let's just... I'm taking this one edge down just because I've found that if you get one side that's significantly thicker than the other, when you start working the stone, it has a tendency to crack. So if I have the ability to thin it out, I will. But I think after this, I'm just going to leave it as a biface, stick it in my bucket, come back to it on a rainy day when I want to make a point out of it. I really like percussion, so I have a lot of fun just smacking rocks. There we go. Alright, well I could thin this out a little bit more, but I'm going to go ahead and end the video. I know this is a long video, but you can see what we started with, you can see what we ended with. No cortex on either side, nice thin biface. Look at that beautiful waviness in that stone. That's just a gorgeous stone. I can't wait to make a point out of that. Got some steps on this side, but those will work out without a doubt. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions, if you have any advice for me, anything at all, please post, please subscribe, please share. I'd love to get as many views as I can, and if you like these videos, let me know. I'll make some more. If you don't like them, you know, maybe tell me something you'd like to see, and I'll do my best if it's in my wheelhouse. Other than that, thank you for watching. This is Paleo Greenbird signing out. Have fun and keep napping.